All right, you're now live, and I'm gonna fade.
Thank you, Dave. What's up, everyone? This is your friend Yarik, who buys real estate. Today's topic, we're going to be talking about how do you get into investing in real estate, right? Everybody wants to do it, but sometimes we get stuck. What does that mean to get stuck? Um, and I'm going to be sharing a lot of my personal experience, what I've been seeing and learning so far as I've been going forward. And again, thank you everyone for tuning in and seeing your friend Yarik, who buys real estate, go live. So yeah, we are definitely excited to provide some knowledge today. Once again, my name is Yarik, who buys real estate, right? So what exactly am I here for? Oh, my man Elijah. What's up, Elijah? How's everything? I cannot hear you, sir. Your mic is off.
This is the best man to listen to. You guys are in store for a treat today. This dude has done some creative things in the real estate space and literally starting off with barely anything. I promise you guys are in tune. I know I'm blurry, and it's because you're about to spit so much fire. It's going to be a great time, brother. We love you. Sending our support and energy. Let's get it.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. Greatly appreciate it, man. Thank you. I appreciate it. That was Elijah. Elijah is also a guy who invests in real estate, and he's been through a lot of ups and downs. So yeah, again, guys, give a few minutes to see who's coming on, jumping on. Super excited. Hi, Jessica. As ever, thank you for tuning in. Again, guys, whatever questions you might have, please, 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 please make sure you comment, post those comments. Let's ask those questions so I can answer them to my best ability. To my best ability. That is pretty much the goal, to share as much as I can with you guys. No courses being sold or anything like that. No upsells. Just really want to share as much as I can. I realize that we sometimes get stuck in certain ways, in certain aspects, and it's really about the family, about the network. So yeah, make sure you comment and make sure you post those messages. Hey Keith, how's everything? Thanks for tuning in. We gotta give a couple more minutes before we start talking about the real secrets of real estate, right? How do you buy your first investment property? Um, so yeah, so this is gonna be an exciting day, exciting moment. I'm going to be covering things like negotiations. How do you keep a cool mind? How do you really get to the nicks and crannies of it, right? How do you actually go ahead and purchase that investment property? We've been hearing a lot about it. Buy real estate, right? Because it's an asset, it's not a liability. Now, certain real estate is a liability. Those are the assets that you have to buy yourself become a liability, right? Because if you have to pay for it yourself, it is a liability. Because if you, God forbid, you lose your job, you lose those assets, right? But if somebody else is working and paying that mortgage down, that rent, or whatever it is, right? If you're flipping, right? Real estate is such a big niche market. So yeah, let's go ahead and let's get this started. So again, hey everyone, my name is Yarik, who buys real estate. In today's episode, we're gonna be sharing about the secrets of buying your first investment property, right? It could be a rental, it could be a fix and flip, it could be whatever you want. It could be a house hack, right? For those who don't know what a house hack is when you buy a multifamily home, right? Two, three, 4 units. You got to stay within 4 units if you want to do an FHA loan, and I'll get into that later, a little bit later on too. So, what is a house hack? You can buy a property that is multifamily. You move into one of the units, right? You move in one of the units, and you rent out the other two, three, whatever it is, and you let the tenants pay you with the mortgage, with the expenses, and so forth, in a way where a house hack would be you don't have to pay rent. And it has to be a multifamily home. It could be even an apartment, right? You can buy or you can rent out an apartment, a 3, 4 bedroom apartment, and you can rent out the rooms, right? So you're collecting rent from your roommates. It's a little bit more. You're living with other people in the same apartment or a house, and you're letting people uh, pay down the rent so you don't have expenses. So again, guys, secrets to buying your first investment property. And what does that mean? So we sometimes get stuck. I personally myself, I got into educating myself and learning, and I started networking. When I started networking, I realized, hey, this is powerful, right? Because you're around very like-minded people, right? People who think the same, who want to do the same, and you guys are pushing each other. So it comes down to really simplicity. This entire episode is going to be about what? The mindset, right? The mindset is really what's going to get you from whatever you want to accomplish, right? Your mind is the most powerful weapon there is, right? It's the most powerful weapon there is. Now, this mind can either be used against you or for you, right? The inner voice can get us to create certain scenarios that are not real. And I've had that, my transactions that I've had. And I'll speak about, for example, one of my first properties that I purchased. It was a mess. It was a super mess. I was not sure what I was doing. I knew the numbers worked. And I had to keep my mind cool because in that transaction, I had the agent who was a dual agent try to sell to somebody else. I had buyers try to back out. Hey Keith, how's everything? And and it was really my mind. I call my mind, my inner voice a few times wanted to explode, right? It wanted to lash out and say, hey, you're doing this wrong, you're doing that wrong. This is how I feel. But I realized one thing is me sharing my feelings would not have this deal closed, right? I was always focusing on one thing, and that is to get to the closing table, get exactly what I want, right? If I'm focused exactly, sharing your feelings is great and all, but do somebody that is not a part of the deal, right? Maybe you can share it with a family member or a friend, and sometimes that's the best way to do it is you go ahead and you talk to your family members and ask them, not even for suggestions, but just to listen you out, just to vent out, right? Sometimes those things, and yeah, just keep a cool mindset. That's one of the most important things that I would have to tell you is that you have to keep a cool mindset. You have to be under control, right? Once you can control yourself, you can control everything else in the all the gears, all the issues that come up. So it's very important to keep control of what you're doing. And I like how Warren Buffett says it. He says that if you can't control your thoughts and emotions by other people's words, you'll never be able to control your finances. Right? What does that mean? Like if anybody can tell you one thing, one sentence, and you already lashing out, and you're changing your mood, and you're focusing on your target, you're forgetting what you really are after. Those people will continue to control you, right? You can't if you can't control yourself, everyone around you will control you. So again, today's topic is secrets to buying your first investment property. Step one is getting the control of your mind. And the best way I've done it personally, and I suggest you guys do the same, is start self-improvement. What is self-improvement? It's pretty much reaching out to like-minded people and really reading books, right? Books on the subject of self-improvement. Some of my favorite books are pretty much, Rich Dad Poor Dad was my first one that got me into this whole mindset. After that, I read books such as The Untethered Soul, The Five Love Languages. Even though uh, five love languages, how would that help you in real estate? Well, you are talking to other people, right? You are communicating with other people. So you want to make sure you understand how they're communicating, what their love language is, and how do you touch them, right? How do you connect with them properly? So another book would be The Four Agreements, right? What are the four agreements? The four agreements pretty much cover always be impeccable with your word, always do your best, never take anything personal, and never make assumptions, right? So when we assume, we make an ass out of you and me, right? That's what pretty much assumptions in. So yeah, so those books. If any, and again, guys, if you want to reach out to me, I'll even give you guys. I'll send you guys a copy. Like I love these books so much that I buy them and just give them out to my friends and everybody I know. And like I truly do believe in these things because awareness is such a powerful thing, right? If you're aware that you want to change your income, if you're aware you want to become a passive, investor, if you're aware that you want to change your current scenarios. Hey, Candice, is everything? Thanks, guys, tuning in. Laura, mindset is important. I am learning that now. Yes, you are correct. Mindset is such a powerful thing. And I said it before and I'll say it again. Our mind is the strongest and the most powerful weapon there is. And again, if it could be used for us or against us, and it comes down to it. So now we spoke about ourselves, right? Our awareness. Once we are aware that we want to make a change in our life, now is the next step, right? So today, you guys could have done anything else. Today is a Saturday, beautiful day outside. You could be doing anything else. You could be enjoying yourself, but no, you chose to tune in, come out to this beautiful expo, come out to listen to me and other great speakers today, and you want to share those things within yourself and others, right? You want to grow, and this is what you guys are out here for. And I'm really thankful for you coming out and actually tuning in and understanding what exactly you're after, right? Because in reality, you're now on a path where you want to understand that you want to change things. So now that we are aware that awareness is the biggest thing, the biggest role, because it comes, you have to be aware when it comes to negotiations. You have to be aware of the market, right? You have to be aware of the laws, right? You have to be aware of the different gears that are playing in this field and game. So now moving over, right? So now you're aware that you want to change your income and so forth. So how do you buy your first investment property? You have to be honest. You have to be honest. And I'll share something personal with you guys. I have been lying to myself, right? I've always been after cash flow. And I started investing in Philadelphia. And over the time, I realized I'm actually lying to myself. What do you mean, Yark? What do you mean you're lying to yourself? Well, I've been saying to myself, I want cash flow, right? I want that passive income. I want money coming in. But I've been investing in Philadelphia because of the appreciation, right? I live in Brooklyn, New York, and tenant laws here are not as great as other states, other cities. So I've been running away from New York City and I've been investing into Philadelphia. But guess what? Philadelphia is appreciation market, is gentrifying, right? So I'm like, oh my God, gentrifying, the price is going to go up. So that's called appreciation. And when I say I'm lying to myself, I've been running after appreciation because I'm looking for that. When I sell, it'll cost a lot more money. So I wasn't being aware, I wasn't being honest. So now I'm realizing that I'm investing in Philadelphia, and Philadelphia is changing and it's becoming what New York City is, right? The tenant laws are not as the same. So when the tenant laws are not friendly, you become as an investor, you become much more hands-on, right? Because you have evictions that take much longer. You have the city that is coming out and giving you violations much faster. They don't, sometimes depends where you're investing, and so you have to be really aware, right? So how do you buy your first real estate investment property? Is you have to be aware and you have to be honest, right? You have to find your character. And I went to a boot camp, and during that boot camp on real estate, there was something really well said. It was a boot camp for multifamily conversion. And then Harvey, he said, you can copy my blueprint, you can copy exactly what I'm doing, but in the end of the day, you have to find your character, right? You have to find who you are, because that's how you're going to be able to scale, right? Because if you're just copying somebody and mimicking them, you'll never actually be able to grow it and explode it. So you really have to ask yourself, right? What exactly you're after? Are you after the cash flow? Are you after the appreciation, right? Because we're all heard this like, hey, passive cash flow. Passively, I don't do anything and just money keeps coming in. If you're really after that, maybe sometimes, investing in certain areas that you are receiving passive income. And real estate, I'm gonna be honest, it's a tough business. There's a lot of moving parts. I'm doing this full time, so I'm fully dedicated to it. And we're seeing these channels, these gurus. They come out and they say, hey, it's so easy, you can just do it remotely. You can do this, you can do that, whatever you want. You don't have to do any of these things personally. It's kind of hands off, and you just collect, every month you collect rent. Well, it's not really that easy as it sounds, right? It's a bit more expensive. It's a bit more expensive when you have to do it yourself, because you're learning on your own experiences, your own mistakes. So you have to, experience is not something you can buy. You have to pay for it, pretty much. So continuously pay for it. You're always paying for exactly what needs to be done and what needs to be learned. So again, going back to how do you buy your first real estate investment? So now that you're grounded yourself in figuring out exactly what do you want, right? And you have to be honest. You say, okay, look, I have a 9 to 5 job, right? I'm having income coming in. I have to pay my expenses, right? So what, sit down and write everything out. Write out all the expenses out exactly, penny to penny, exactly. Hey, share. Thanks for tuning in. So yeah, you have to really write everything out, like everything, your cell phone bill, your rent, your car insurance, your gas. So you have to understand what is exactly your monthly payment, right? What is exactly your monthly expense? Once you can really put that in, you have to understand, am I really, what time do I have, what extra time do I have to become a real estate investor, right? How do I buy my first real estate property? And your first real estate property can definitely will change your life. But you just have to really understand what exactly where in life are you right now, and how do you move to the next level. So we're going from awareness to learning different, educating yourself, so understanding what exactly you're after. And to get there, you really have to understand what are you after. Is really comes down to what exactly am I looking for, right? So, for example, I'm looking for cash flow. I'm looking for money coming in every month, right? I have to. I'm realizing that appreciation is great, but it's a bonus product. I'm not after that. So I need to buy bigger properties, bigger units. So I've been buying single family homes because they, the BRRRR strategy. And for those who are tuning in, what is a BRRRR strategy? It's you buy, renovate, rent, repeat, right? So that's a BRRRR strategy. It sounds easy in concept. So, but what it really happens down to it is you have to buy a property that is distressed. What does that mean? You have to buy a property that's distressed, and you have to actually invest money into it that you will get money back. So meaning you have to renovate it, right, for it to appreciate in value. And just to kind of give you guys a one-on-one for those who are new to the game, what is buying a property in the right numbers is with a burst strategy, a single family home. And I'll do simple numbers. Let's say in that area, in that neighborhood, properties, all the same houses, 3 bedroom, one bathroom, same square footage, same layout, right? Everything the same in that whole neighborhood, they sell for $100,000 already renovated. So your goal to do a burst strategy is to buy it at 65 cents on the dollar. The 65 cents on the dollar, it's called hard cost. What is hard cost? Hard cost is purchase price, right? How much can you get this distressed property for? Let's say we'll get it for 50,000, and then renovation costs, right? Those are two numbers you have to understand. That's the hard cost, renovation cost, and we'll throw in 15,000, right? Because we're buying at 65 cents on a dollar. 100,000 is the after repair value, right? That's how much it appraises for. That's how much the same house with the same renovation sells for. It sells for 100,000. So now our hard cost is 65,000 total for renovation and purchase of the property. So we buying for 50, we're putting in 15,000. It total's gonna be 65,000, right? And now we have a 35,000 uh, profit margin, right? Some people forget that they think, oh my God, I'm gonna make $35,000. Now the 35,000, the 35%, 35 cents on the dollar is actually called soft cost. What is a soft cost? It pretty much covers your utilities, your taxes, your all the little things in between, electricity, you have gas, you have water, you have to pay for, you have insurance, you have to pay for. And a lot of people don't realize it, and I didn't realize it myself. And people forget to mention that is because you have to pay those monthly, and those things add up really fast, right? So I bought my first property, then I did my second and third, and and then it started adding up really fast. And I was like, oh my God, this is it's much more expensive with the soft cost than I really was planning for. So you really have to buy right. So, anyways, that's a birth strategy. I just want to kind of give everybody a little bit of information on exactly what kind of things, the secrets there are to buying your first real estate investment property. Um, so yeah, so once you pretty much figure out those things, is that that's the birth strategy: buy, renovate, rent, repeat. If you want to buy and hold, and that strategy, you technically don't have any money in the game, but you definitely want to have money to the side because things do come up, things do pop up that you don't really sometimes plan for. I didn't plan for things, and I got burned from a contractor. I had to. I realized that water bills, electricity is really high because you have contractors working there and they're using all these things and they're using more of it than power drills and stuff and so forth. So those things add up really fast. Now another strategy is pretty much, you know, you as an investor, you say you have some money in the bank and you were like, okay, I want to buy something. I don't want to renovate it, right? Because you already have a full-time job, right? Because if you want to get into the burst strategy, you want to start renovating houses, that is a job in its own. I'm going to be honest with you. Yeah, it's great. In concept on TV, you don't break a nail. It's 1, 2, 3. You buy a house, you get a contractor, he renovates it, you re-rent, you flip it, and you come out with all this money. Well, guess what? It's a bit more intensive than that because you are dealing with other people, right? If you think about it now, it's like you have a loved one. They have, they're day to day they're different. Certain things come up. Your life comes up. You're working with, you go to work and you're working with other people. When you work with people, it's much tougher than it really seems from the sidelines. And so yeah, so moving forward, pretty much, right? How do you buy your first real estate investment property? And we're gonna be going through all these little, options that you have. Another thing you have is pretty much uh, how do you right, right? So going back to flipping. What is flipping? You know, you're buying a house, you're renovating, you're selling it to an end buyer, and when you sell to the end buyer, what happens? You are getting profit, and this is a trick. This is where it really comes down. So I said, 35%. You have um, the wiggle room from the purchase renovation. The real number, the real number when you do a flip is between 10 to 15% profit, right? So you have to understand that, oh my God, I bought a house for 50,000. I put in, 15 and I'm gonna sell for 100. Well, guess what? You're looking at 10 to 15% of that profit. So after selling the house for 100,000, you're probably gonna walk away with 10 to 15,000, which is a good amount of money, right? Don't get me wrong, but it is very intensive. So you have to understand that what exactly. And I don't want to push anybody away from this, from beginning your first property. We just I'm being honest with you. I want to be transparent as possible. Um, Nick, yeah, definitely. I just want to be very transparent and let you guys know exactly how this business works. Because don't ever stop yourself. Don't get scared what I'm saying to you. What I'm saying to you is I'm just being honest. And if you guys get stuck or whatever it is, just reach out to me and talk to me, right? Find out if I can't answer your questions, I'll definitely connect you with somebody that can, right? It's all about networking. It's all about being together and sharing. So yeah, and so moving forward, so you can flip homes, or you could even, if you have money in the bank, you can go ahead and buy something that's already been stabilized, right? What does that mean? Is you're buying it at full 100% on like 100 cents on a dollar, meaning um, that neighborhood, all those houses sell for 100,000, and guess what? You gotta buy it for 100,000. So that means, you go to a conventional bank, and the bank is like, hey, listen, I'm gonna give you money, but you got to put down, 25%, unless you're going with the FHA loan, which is 5%. Don't want to go too deep into it, but FHA loan, you have to understand it. If you're putting 5% down, you could do that. You can close on a house, but you have to pay a PMI, right? Which is an insurance that the bank charges you because there's a bigger liability, right? You're buying a house with almost no equity in it, and you're only putting out 5%. So the bank wants to make sure that there's insurance in play that, God forbid, the market changes, they have to go foreclosure. There's not much of wiggle room, right? Because if it's 100,000, and they gave you 95,000 for it, and now the market tanks, whatever happens in 15 years, now they have to sell it for much discount to, let's say, at 70 cents on a dollar. Now they have to sell for 70, right? They're losing $20,000, et cetera, et cetera. So they want to make sure there's insurance involved that they can, don't lose their shirt on it. But anyways, moving forward. So again, going back to being awareness and understanding exactly what you're after, right? If you're really after the passive income, well, sometimes, when you do buy something at 100 cents on a dollar, you just buy something where it hasn't been renovated. You go ahead and get the property, put a tenant in there, and as long as you put the right people in play, right? You have the right management company, or you have the right um, people in play. You have the network that you can reach out to, you can talk to, you can find out exactly what's happening. Those things are possible, and you just want to make sure that you are aware of those things, right? Because there's a certain step. So, for example, I purchased my first property and I bought it with a tenant in play. I got it, right? So the property, let's say the fair market value was 50,000. The houses were selling for 120,000, and it needed about $40,000 of renovation. But I got it for 23,000 because I bought it with a tenant, and I knew this is gonna be my full-time job, right? I knew this is gonna be my full focus. So I was willing to take on a bigger risk, right? That it was much more hands-on, um, hands-on type of a project, because I knew I was going to dedicate my time to it, right? Because I went from e-commerce, digital marketing. I had a partnership. We split up because I realized I always had a passion for real estate, but once I came down to making money to buy real estate, I realized I don't know anything about real estate. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna just pursue it. This is my passion. I'm gonna go into it, which was one of the toughest things I've done in my life, because switching careers is so crazy, because your mind starts playing games with you. You start doubting yourself. You start thinking, did I do the right thing? Maybe I should go back into that business, or maybe I should do this, or I should do that. And now I have friends who are impacted with the COVID, and they realize their jobs are wiped out, and they're like, oh my God, like, how'd you do it? How'd you go into it? Like, and I told them it's really tough to switch careers, like to go full throttle into one thing, from going from doing X to now doing Z. it's a bit different. It's possible. Don't get me wrong. Don't stop. If you really believe in it, if you really are aware of it, like you can definitely do it, and you should definitely do it as long as you're aware of it and understand the, your rat race. How much your expenses are. So you just don't quit and be like, oh, I have $10,000 in the bank, but guess what? That only lasts you 2 months because every month it's $5,000 for you to cost. Um, do you have to live in the property if it's an FHA loan? So yes, technically, to disclose, yes, you do have to live there. How do the banks check? They don't really check too thoroughly, right? I know people have done it. I don't suggest doing it. Just I'm not a lawyer, or so don't quote me on this. But technically, yes, you by paper you should be living the property. So before I mentioned what is an FHA loan, it's pretty much a loan that you would get where you put on your 3.5 to 5% down, which is a very small amount of money, but you're able to acquire a property. And with that being said, you buy a two, three. So you can't, like, for example, if you buy an FHA loan, single family, you're gonna live there. It's not an investment property because you have to pay for it yourself. It doesn't produce any income because you have to produce income to pay for it. So if you buy two family with an FHA loan, you move into one of the units and you rent out the second one. That already helps you with the mortgage. It helps you with the expenses. You buy a 3 unit property, you get two tenants. You buy a 4 unit property, you get three tenants. You live in one of them. Sometimes people go ahead and they rent out all the units and don't live there, or they'll live in a basement, whatnot. So moving forward, be honest with yourself. No problem. Be honest with yourself. You want to find out exactly what you're after, right? Um, and the question is, like, are you cut out to be a landlord, right? Are you willing to skip the Netflix? Are you willing to skip certain things, the Facebook, or sitting on social media? Are you willing to take the time, extra time, or create extra time in your daytime, in your life, to go ahead and do those certain things, right? Yes, house hacking, exactly, Keith. So yeah, house hacking is definitely an option, and you got to find out exactly what you're after. Sometimes, like, I was talking to a friend of mine yesterday, and he said, "Hey, listen, I want to get into real estate." I'm like, "Yeah, that's awesome." And he owns a optical store, and he's like, I have money right now, and December 31st, I have to pay taxes, right? I want to be paying over $6,000 in taxes if I don't invest in something. And I'm like, well, listen, you have about 45 days, right? So today, right now is November 14th. I'm like, you have about 45 days to do this. I'm like, honestly speaking, I do this full time. 45 days is a short period of time. It is possible. Don't get me wrong. It is possible. But if you've never done a deal and you want to do this on your own, it's going to be tough to do it in 45 days and do it the right way, right? You jump into a deal that doesn't, you lose your shirt on it. Because even the title company takes about 10 to 14 days just to do the title to make sure that there's no liens or anything on the property. So it comes, and I asked him, like, what are you really after? He goes, well, to be honest with you, I don't want to, I don't want to. He's like, I already have employees. I'm already paying, a rent. I'm already creating jobs, right? I'm already paying taxes through, other ways, and I'm doing everything right. And he's like, I want to make sure that the money I did make, that it can revolve and make more money. How do I multiply my money? Well, I'm like, well, listen, you could go ahead and lend that money, right, into somebody else that needs capital to buy other things, assets, inventory, whatever it is, and you can make money on it, right? And he goes like, well, yeah, that's what I really want to do, is I want to use my money to go ahead and buy um, a flip, right? I would go ahead and buy a flip, and I would, and I would make money on it. And I asked him, I was like, well, listen, how much can you really, percentage wise, how much can you make in a flip? And surprisingly, he knew it. He said, I would make about 10 to 15% after selling the flip. And so that was interesting, because he was already talking to other investors and other people who were flipping. And the guy told him, hey, listen, I bought for this amount, that's, put in this amount, then sold for that amount. After everything, I walked away with 10 to 15%. And I was like, well, listen, what if you are able to take that money, invest it, right, and be a real passive investor, right? Passive cash flow investor, meaning passive money, right? Passive meaning not having to be involved in it. I'm like, well, you can lend that money, you actually get a return on your loan, right? And 6 to 8% a month. And it was like, wow, that's actually something I didn't think about, right? So what I'm saying is, like, you have to be aware of what exactly are you after, right? Because like when you get a rental property, it is the three T's, toilets, tenants, and termites. which is not a negative thing, but you got to be aware that it is a bit more time, time consuming, more intensive. And sometimes I buy properties from distressed or like tired landlords because they're fed up with it. Right now I'm under contract to buy a property, a mixed use, because well the owner never made any repairs, right? So now he has all these upset tenants. They're all hate him. They're all calling the city on him. He has violations open. He doesn't want to fix any of these things, and he's upset, right? Well, because he thought he's gonna buy this, he's gonna sit back and relax. Well, no, he never called in the maintenance guys. He never, did any upkeep on it. So yeah, certain things, when you don't pay attention to certain things, they start depreciating. They start, these assets become a liability because guess what? The tenants came out, called the city. The violations were passed out. His landlord license expired. He can't get his landlord's license back. He can't collect rent. He can't even evict them, right? So there's a lot of things in this game that people don't talk about, but it's a tricky thing, right? And again, I'm not trying to push you guys away. I'm just trying to get you guys aware that awareness is a big key. Make sure you understand what you're after. Make sure you know what you're getting yourself into. And the best way to do it is to network, learn, educate, but also take action, right? So, for example, even like lending, right? So I raise capital, and I have friends who are like, I want to get into real estate. Well, I'm like, well, I'll raise capital, to buy assets. And they're like, really? So they went ahead and raised money from my friends and family members, and now these family and friends who didn't understand how much they're paying taxes, their day job, they're now, getting a return on their investment. They're like, oh, I have to pay, interest on this. I'm like, yes, you have to pay capital gains tax on it, but it's only, 15%. I'm like, it's not the same as your job. They're like, oh, really? How does this work? And how does that work? So by them, right, making money besides their job, right? Because like we sometimes forget that our job is there to make income, but there's nothing stopping us to get second income, third income coming in. And we sometimes think, oh my God, asset, I'm gonna buy real estate and I want to get into this and I'm gonna start collecting so much money and I'm gonna be doing this and that. Yeah, it is possible. It's all about being honest with yourself. Do you have the time for it? If not, partner up with somebody. Maybe, somebody who has more experience. You have the finances, or even just, lend out your money and then figure out how do you multiply? Because the game is to multiply your money, right? And the goal is to what? To not overcomplicate things where you create a second job and you focus so much on the second income that you forget about your first income and you lose your first income that was producing more money than your second income, right? So like you have to understand, be aware. I got a great question from Keith. Can you explain how a 1031 exchange works? Right. So for example, I'm selling a house right now. I'm on a contract. We should be closing in the end of the month. And I have the option of doing 1031 exchange. In that 1031 exchange, you do have to get a third party involved. Does that mean another company that does all the documents, right? Documentation where, let's say I sell the house for 100,000. When the closing date, after all the fees, that you get 100,000. This company takes that 100,000, right, with all the paperwork that was filed before closing. Meaning what? When my buyer came to me and said, "I'm buying your house. Here's an offer. Let's get it done." I had to make sure that I put in the contract that there's gonna be a 1031 exchange in the end of closing on the actual contract that between me and buyer, seller and buyer, right? Which is kind of weird. Like, why would you have to do that? But you have to. It's part of the certain things you have to do. Once that gets into play, um, whatever money comes at closing table, I don't touch it. I never see it, right? That money goes into an escrow account, the 1031 exchange, and it sits there for me to use that money to buy another property. Now, for those who don't understand what 1031 exchange, what it is a blanket for you to be able to not have to pay taxes on the profits that you made on a flip or your any property that you're selling, right? So meaning you're not paying taxes. Like some people get upset when they hear not paying taxes. Is well, guess what? On a 1031 exchange, you're taking that money and you're not buying it anything for yourself, right? You're not using it for your lavish lifestyle or anything for your expenses. What you're doing is you're selling one inventory, a real estate property, and you're buying another inventory, a real estate property, right? And let's say you bought it for 100,000, you sold for 100,000 after everything. The 1031 exchange holds it. You buy another $100,000 property, so that money just gets moved over, right? Now, let's say you bought something you sold something for 100, you bought something for 80,000. Well, you move over that 80,000, now you have 20,000, so you have to pay tax on that 20,000. And again, I make sure you verify with your accountant and so forth. I'm just sharing my knowledge again, guys. Don't take my word for it, but that's how I see it. That's how it works for me. And again, so yeah, you can, the goal of the game is like if you are buying houses and you buy real estate, you use 1031 exchange, and you are always trying to buy something bigger. Keep this in mind. If you're doing 1031 exchange and you're counting this money, right? You buy a house, you flip it, you do this as your full time, and then you sell it and you do 1031 exchange. Guess what? All that money is moved into a different property. So make sure you have some other income, because you have to pay for your expenses, right? Be honest. Don't just quit your job and start becoming a real estate investor and then realize like, oh shoot, whatever savings I had, I just spent it on my expenses, and now I'm selling this house. Well, guess what? I can't even do 1031 exchange um, because I I just, I was focusing as that income. Keith has another. Do you need an attorney for that transaction? So the 1031 exchange, this is where the 1031 exchange third party comes in, right? You pay them a fee. So for example, it costs like $2,000 for a fee. For them to actually do all the paperwork. They are the ones who would do all the paperwork. They would file it. Now, again, it depends on state to state. Make sure that you reach out to the person within that state that you're doing, you're flipping, you're selling, whatever you're doing, that they are aware of that, right? Like for example, not all accounts are the same. Not all attorneys are the same. So you can always reach out to an attorney, right, who is real estate familiar, and you can jump on a call for half an hour. Most attorneys do give a free consultation. So go ahead and do that. Make sure you reach out to somebody within your state, within your city that understands the laws, and just ask them. Right, I can't really go into much detail because each state is different. So I'm not really sure which state you guys are in. But yeah, so yeah, it is all possible, and it's go back to first thing is what awareness, building a network, being aware that you want to do these things, and then what getting into what real estate, if you want to get into real estate. But in reality is you got to make sure you're aware and you're reaching out to like-minded people, networking. And when I say networking, a lawyer is part of your network. An agent is part of your network, right? All these people are you want to meet, you want to introduce. I'm right now part of your network, right? And once you guys reach out to me, you're gonna be part of my network. So that's really how that works, right? It's a family, right? You have to look at it as a family where we're sharing things with each other, we're learning things, right? And money is just a bonus, right? If money is being done and there's some kind of profit, great. That's a bonus. That's a bonus that you got, because you really have to look at it this way. Whatever action you take, for example, you guys tuned in today and you're listening in, that's already you're growing, right? You spend the money to get on and listen to this or whatever it is, you are now like growing with it, right? It's something you are learning or hopefully you guys learn a lot of things today, but something you didn't know yesterday, right? So that's really what it comes down to, and taking action. Like even just or like for example, like my parents, right? They asked my dad, I'm like, how much do you pay in taxes for your job? And he goes, oh, I don't know, I don't care. They just automatically take it, and that was really interesting to me because they're not aware of it. But now that they're lending and they're getting interest of their investment, they're now asking me, oh, how does that work? And can I write it off? And can I do this? How much is the tax? How much is this? How much is that? And now they're kind of like tuning in. Why? Because it took a small step, right, or a big step, whichever way you want to see it, and they're making things happen for themselves, right? They're seeing this cash flow now passively, right? Because they didn't never sell the property, like they did because they wanted to, they were just excited, but they're doing it passively where they're now collecting interest on their investment, and it's all secured by an asset, right? Because they gave some banker, some broker for their stocks, and the guy made them broker. So they were like, I'm not doing stocks anymore because again, they gave somebody that they thought he knew. But you have to understand how people make money, right? And like brokers, they make money on every transaction. I'm not gonna get into that, but anyways, as Robert Kiyosaki says, broker, can you make you broker if you don't understand what you're doing. So yeah, so moving forward, guys, make sure you are learning, right? And best way to learn is through experience. And what kind of experience? Sometimes getting in contact with people who are successful. It's hard to talk to them and just sometimes you want to figure out a way where you can give them value so they can spend more time with you and so on. And continuously network, continuously reach out, see what people are doing, right? There's a hundred, there's so many YouTube videos and so on, comment, try to reach out and see how you can add people to your network, because your network is your net worth. Yes, that is so true, so true. um Keith, no problem. Yeah, ask away. Yeah, definitely. If you reach out to me again, Yarik, who buys real estate. You guys can reach out to me at Yarik Didenko. Yarik buys houses, Didenko on Facebook and so on. Yeah, you guys can reach out to me and see how I can help in any way, and I can definitely connect you guys to whoever you needs to be connected to. And then yeah, so yeah, please go ahead and reach out and connect, and we can make some things happen together. And again, I'm not really looking to partner up or anything like that. If there's any way I can help, that'd be amazing. But I like how there was a quote says the difference between the difference between successful people and not successful people is that successful people ask smart questions. So can you spell it? Yeah, Yarik, Yarik, Didenko. Um, yeah, so pretty much you guys can reach out to me. I'll even give you my email address if you want. So the email address this is my personal email address. So go ahead and reach out. It's promasterlight@gmail.com, which is PROMASTER light LIGHT@gmail.com. Promasterlight@gmail.com, and that's my personal email. You guys can reach out to it with direct connect to me, and I'll connect you guys to whoever needs to be connected so we can get it done and move forward. So I definitely want to connect you guys to the right people. If there's something I can't answer and I can't get it done for you guys, I make sure that you are connected to the right people and to the right hands. Get the hope you got that down. So yeah, just reach out to me, and just if it's a question that Google can't answer, right? Sometimes like I had an e-commerce, I had about 16 employees, and and all the screen monitors, I put a little saying says you know, ask Google, meaning like Google has a lot of information. So, sometimes people come to me and say, hey, how do I, become rich, or how do I make money? And I can't answer that, because that's a endless, topic. It's a topic that only you can answer, meaning you really have to understand your own character and what are you exactly you're after, right? If there's a lot of people I meet that they love their job, right? They make a good amount of money, but they realize that they want to retire sooner than later, and maybe sometimes they don't have a retirement fund, whatever it is, and they're like, okay, I'm thinking about it. How do I get it right? So everybody's different. Everybody has everybody's their unique person. So that's definitely a way you have to figure out, right? So for example, myself, I thought I was into cash flow, but in reality, I was lying to myself. I was focusing on asset appreciation, and now I'm like, you know what? I realized that I do love cash flow. I do want cash flow. I do love real estate. This is my passion. I am doing this full time. I'm not going to be doing anything else. And I realized that I want to do bigger deals. And I learned through that by taking action, right? If you take massive action with persistence, you will get results. You will get profits. You will get returns, right? And that's what you're really after. You're after all these things. And but you guys coming out and listening to me and listening to other speakers in today's expo, and continuously tune in and learn, that's already a great step. Right, next step is like, how do you provide value to somebody else, and how do you get them to share more information with you? And a lot of times, if it's free, most of the time it's not really quality. And I don't want to say it in a bad way. What I meant to say is like, um, I'm always trying to scale and grow bigger. And every time I get into people information, like the guys who are much more successful, they're just a lot more busier, and their value of time is much more expensive. So you always got, I'm always thinking like, okay, so my background is digital marketing. Like, how do I provide some digital marketing aspects for them for free, right? To get their more information than them. Keith, so yeah, let's go back to this the topic of secrets of buying your first real estate property. One of the most important things is market, right? What is a market? How do you understand a market? Well, guess what? From awareness and being honest with yourself, find an area and stick to it. Stick to one area that you want to purchase in. It could be a neighborhood, right? It could be something, and you want to keep it within 100 miles from your home. The reason for that is that you don't want to drive more than 2 hours away from your home. Is because if it's something is 4 hours away, there's less chances that you'll come out there more often. And if there is a problem, and if you're a newbie and you're just beginning in it, and this is your first investment property, you want to make sure that it is within 2 hours of driving. And actually, a lot of hard lenders, they don't want to lend if you live more than 100 miles away. And I didn't understand in the beginning, but until I started investing, outside of my areas, and I realized that yeah, it is a bit more consuming. Certain things, sometimes something happens and you want to just jump in a car and drive there, and it's like 6 hours just when driving. It's difficult. So how do you find comps, right? So once you pick an area, you want to find out exactly what the areas are selling. And the best way, your neighborhoods. Sometimes like you can go to Zillow. You could, is estimates, as I call it. It's definitely not. Yeah, I wouldn't take it on that. So what you want to do is you want to find out what a property is selling for, and you want to make sure you compare apples to apples, right? If it's a 3 bedroom, 1 bathroom, recently renovated, well, guess what? You want to make sure you want to compare it to a 3 bedroom, 1 bathroom, recently renovated, similar square footage, plus or minus maybe 1,500 square feet, depending on the area. To go back to networking, Keith, is you want to make sure you go ahead and link up, network with an agent, right? Some agents want to sign you up with an exclusivity of them being only your agent. Some agents are willing to help. Whatever it is, figure it out, talk to them, negotiate, right? Because everything is negotiable. Everything is negotiable. You guys have to understand that as long as you take the time and understand, and understand how you can provide value, you'll be able to get agents to help you out finding comps, right? Finding out in certain things. And how do you buy your first real estate investment property? Network, continuously network with agents, right? I'll give you guys a homework today. If you never purchase a property, if you never went on the contract, well, guess what? Today is the first day of you making an action, right? Go ahead and go on the contract, right? This is the scariest thing for me. It was beginning of real estate. A contract. Why? As soon as I say contract, people get scared, right? So I do wholesaling too, and when I talk to sellers, I don't use the word contract, right? I use, oh, here's the contract is a word that we all stay away from. So, anyways, reach out. Like today's homework. Go ahead and go on Zillow in your market. Find whatever house it is. Don't look for that unicorn, right? We all want that unicorn of like the most profitable, my first investment property. You're not buying it. Your homework is to go on the contract. What does that mean? Go on Zillow, go wherever you want, find the first property, contact that agent, say, I'm interested in this property, I want to buy it, send me the contract, right? Boom, guess what? Now these little steps you're taking, what does that mean? Now you're like, well, what's next? What do you mean? Like I contract and exactly that. Your mind has already started thinking. Your mind is already processing. It's like, well, guess what? You won't be able to buy any real estate until there's gonna be a contract involved. That's how it works. So go ahead and reach out to any agent, any deal you see, and say, hey, I like this property. I'm gonna buy it. They're gonna be like, okay, sure. What's what's your offer? And you're like, well, full asking price. They're like, okay, so what about the due diligence period? And you're like, well, what is that, right? And they're gonna, so the agent's gonna walk you through it, right? And that's when they're gonna construct, a contract will be set, sign it, and this is what's gonna make you realize what it is, right? You're like, well, what do you mean I'm gonna sign a contract? I'm not gonna buy it. Well, you gotta make sure you read the contract, right? This is the next step. Is like now you're about to sign a contract. You're like, well, can I get out of it? Well, that's the beauty about it, right? Because you're getting into a contract. Now you're forcing yourself to read a contract, right? You're familiarizing with it. And a lot of people say, like, well, I'm going to buy a few houses here, a few houses there, and that's this date. Well, guess what? You go and contact an agent, you're going to ask them, like, hey, I need a contract. Let's put it on the contract. So they're going to, all this information be provided to you. You're going to sign it. And it's a standard contract that all agents use, meaning that state and city uses that contract. So once you start reading that contract, you're first of all, it's your probably first time seeing it. You're gonna read it. You're gonna find out all these things about due diligence period. You're gonna see about closing date. You're gonna see about offer price. You're gonna see about any contingencies, right? Mortgage contingency and so on. That's a whole different topic. I don't want to, that's like an hour. I can get into it. And if you guys can, just post some topics, and I'll actually do videos on it and describe it detail by detail. But anyway, so your first homework is to go on a contract. Any property you see, that's what I did, and that's how I got into the business. I found a property, a random property. I called in, said I want to put on a contract. He sent me the contract. I signed it. I never sent the earnest money. Earnest money is EMD, right? The deposit, not the deposit you guys thinking, right? Put the house down, but it's an earnest money, meaning like you give money to make the contract real. So you don't even have to do that as your first homework, right? You just go on the contract, don't even send the money yet, and then just bail on it. Now, maybe there's some agents on here and they're like, "What are you doing? That's a waste of time." Look, um, these are like people are investors soon to be if they're not yet, right? So by them making a contact with you and talking to an agent or a broker, that's already a broker or an agent you've never spoke to before, right? So that's the person you just added to your network, right? Even though you're gonna bail out of that contract, but guess what? Continue to talking to them like, right? Hey, you bail out of the contract, you say, I want to get out of the contract, and this is gonna get your mind to the next step, right? It'll get you over that fear, because fear is the biggest thing we have. What does that mean? Meaning like our minds are the biggest, is the strongest weapon, because it could be either for us or against us. And against us is our fear. Our fears of, oh my God, I'm gonna go on a contract. Oh my God, I won't be able to get out. Oh my God, I'm gonna go to court. Oh my God, I'm gonna lose everything I have. All these thoughts are fake. They were just, you just created them yourself in your head. And they're not even real. They never happen, right? Because your awareness is not there. Your awareness is just lost. Moving forward, go on the contract, sign it, and then bail out, right? Next 3 days. You can create any excuse, right? When I went on a contract, I called and I said, hey, listen, I love this property. And he said, yeah, sure, you want to see it? I'm like, honestly, my girlfriend, she loves it. I just want to put it on a contract because like I'm gonna be moving out here, and like, can we just get it done and then I'll see it. And then 3 days I called him and I said, hey, listen, my girlfriend changed her mind. There was no girlfriend. That was all made up. And I was like, she, doesn't want to do it. So he's like, sure, like it is what it is. I understand. Let me help, let me see what I can help you with. And now we have a relationship, right? I talked to him, and later on, I was like, hey, listen, I'm looking to invest, and he's like, yeah, sure, I'll put you on my buyers list. What are your criteria? So you see, like he's asking you questions, what are your criteria? Now you're like, well, what are my criteria, right? So these are the questions you're gonna start asking yourself, and these is about taking action. Um, I have a question here. Please share other methods of obtaining financing and rental properties other than FHA loans and friends and family members. So you have going back to once you find out what exactly you're after, right? Do you have the time to actually do the renovation? Meaning, do you have the time to find a contractor, vet the contractor, go through so you could I purchased my first property with private money. Second property was hard money. What is hard money? Hard money is a bridge loan. What it does is pretty much a bridge loan is like a bridge, right? Buying a house, there's a bridge which is financing it for you to renovate it, stabilize it, and then to refinance it. Right? They're bridging you from purchase to conventional loan, and that's really called hard money. Hard money is really is hard because you got to be paying interest in them, and they do underwriter and this and that. So those fees really add up. That's not to scare you off, because I did it. It works. It's possible. Just make sure you're right. And not all hard money is the same. I just want to put this in there. I do look at hard money as your partner, because they're there to vet the deal out. If they come in and they say, hey, the numbers don't work, but I gotta lend you, guess what? You should probably listen to that, right? Because they don't want to give their own hard money on a deal. Maybe you shouldn't even pursue it. And now you ask them, hey, why aren't you gonna do it, et cetera, et cetera. And they'll explain to you, hey, the renovation is this, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, adding on to it, hard money is an option, right? If you can't raise money from your friends and family member or your savings, you can go ahead and use hard money. And if you guys want to connect with some hard money lenders, there's different types of hard money lenders. There's guys who can, give you 100% on the purchase and renovation. You got to cover the closing costs. Now there's a hard money that, they'll lend you 85% of the deal, 20%, 80% of the deal of the purchase, right? So if a house is 100,000, they'll lend you 80,000. You got to come up with the other 20,000 if they're doing 80%. and then they'll cover if they do 100% of the renovation, they'll cover the 100% of the whatever the budget of the renovation is. Thank you, Jason. Well done. Has been inspirational watching your progress. Moving on to the next one. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Definitely. Thank you, Jason, for tuning in and seeing it. CB, yes, everything is negotiable, right? I love Chris Voss, the FBI negotiator. He's an amazing person. He is definitely uses some interesting ways of negotiating. And Grant Cardone, like there's a lot of people I follow. He says something that stood out to me. He has a book called Sell and Be Sold, and in that book it pretty much says you're always selling or you're being sold to. And it's super true, right? It's really is true that everything's negotiable. How do you get to your first real estate investment property? Is guess what? Negotiations are going to be involved. And once you get into awareness, understanding yourself, right, what you're after, then you got to start understanding how do once you get able to control yourself, then you can control the scenarios, right, the negotiations. And man, like I love negotiations. I didn't understand I loved it until I really got into it. And like the art piece you see back here is I negotiated, right, and I bought out 5 different art galleries in the summer of 2020. So that was a hell of a negotiation. I'm still speechless. First over 350 art pieces. So definitely that was an interesting time that Never Split the Difference, awesome book on negotiation. Yes, Laura, definitely is an amazing book. I probably read that book maybe 10, 20 times, and every time I read it, I learned something new. So yeah, like again, guys, going back to awareness, reading, self improvement. I used to think I'm better than that. I didn't understand self improvement. I thought, how can somebody tell me how to live my life when I know exactly how to live it? Until I started getting into it, I realized, wow, my ego was so strong that I didn't allow anybody else to tell me how things could be done other than what I see it as. Right? That's called awareness. Being aware that there's, one same thing can be done a thousand different times, right? So it comes down to you really have to understand yourself, and I'm always like I give out these books to like people I know, and the reason I do it for is it gives me enjoyment, right? Because like I understand it makes me happy because I'm making other people happy, and it's very selfish, right? It's just doing kind things for others is a selfish act, as I like to say, because the smile on their face creates a smile on my face, and that's an instant gratification, instant reward. So yeah, going back to it. So how do you buy your first property? You got to take baby steps, right? You got to get into it. Once you start getting aware and once you start getting to certain things, right? That's one aspect. And how do you buy your first? The secret is pretty much don't be scared. Don't be, have fearless. Be fearless. It's simple as that. Because the worst thing that can happen is what? Nothing really, if you think about it. So everybody who's tuning in, if you haven't put a property on the contract before, that's your homework. Simple as that. Yeah, it sounds insane, but it's really that simple, right? And Nick Tank, who did this expo, I was overhearing him talk to somebody else, and somebody came up and said, "Hey, I want to get to real estate," and Nick was like, "Well, what's stopping you?" And I was like, "Whoa, shots fired!" Right? What does that mean? What's stopping you? And that's this is the most simplest question you can ask yourself. What's stopping you? And I was like, "Well, that I don't have, I never put a property in a contract." Light bulb, bam, there you go. Put it on a contract. So I went and put it on a contract. I bailed. Right? And then I went back and I put another property on the contract, and this time I put up during this money, and then I bailed this again, and I was like, wow, this is real, this works, and I'm reading these contracts, and I'm getting familiar with it, and I'm now I put an offer. The agent says with a contract, there's really like 4 areas that I look for. Make sure that the name is correct, make sure that my offer is correct. When is the closing date, right? When is the due diligence period? How long is the due diligence period? And that's really like there's not much really. The contract is standard, right? Once you get familiar with it, it just works. And I've done so many transactions, and it's funny. Like I'm selling a property right now, and my sales agent, she's like, "Oh, let's go through the contract," and I was like, uh, in my head, I was like, oh, I'm like, wait, hold on a second. That's my ego talking. Shut up, listen. So I'm like, oh yeah, let's go through the contract. Sure, that sounds good. I haven't really had that before. So she starts going through the contract. She's like, well, you see this part right here? She's like, well, this actually extends it for another 5 days after the diligence period is over, but most agents don't know that. Guess what? I didn't know that, right? Because like I thought the diligence period is the diligence period. Like you could extend the diligence period by asking, but I didn't know that once the diligence period is over, there's X amount of days. And again, I'm saying it from my scenario, right? From my standard contract, because every state, everywhere is different. So just make sure you understand the contract. It's simple as that. It's words, right? You gotta read it, and it doesn't change. It's in the contract. It's on paper. So it's standard. Once you get used to it, you're gonna standardize contract. So, anyways, and yeah, so don't let your ego get into it. And I learned something new by letting her speak and let me listen. Right, it's very important to listen. But yeah, so it's funny. That's how things work. Ego is definitely a big part of certain things that I've lost some good things in my life because of my ego. So you got to be aware of that. Yeah, moving forward, what other finances? You have private money, you have hard money, raising money from friends and family member. You have conventional loans, you have FHA loan, you have what else do you have? You can do subject to. Real estate is like an endless beast. There's niches within niches. Like the more I learn about it, and like it's like I'm speechless. Such a big vehicle. So really, it comes down to just being honest with yourself and finding what you want to do, man. And woman, like just figure it out and like see what you're after, right? Like if it's really passive cash flow, well, if you really passively want to just collect, interest in your money, maybe just lending it is one aspect. If you do want to have tenants and like you don't mind being persistent about it and being active, right? Like I bought a property with a tenant in it as my first one because I knew I would have the time to do it, and I was very persistent. And I kept on set apart letters and so on, and I got them out, right? And I got them out without paying cash for keys. Why? Because I believed in myself. I knew I had the network. I knew if I get stuck, I'd reach out to somebody to help me, not help me as in do it for me, but help me push me next, right, to the next chapter, to the next step. So it's definitely. And again, guys, I hope I don't want to get into details of what exactly, how do you analyze a deal and so forth. It's just because there's a lot of videos on it. There's a lot of articles on it. If you reach out to me, I'll explain to you further. But I really wanted to, really tune in about awareness, really tune in about, your ego, your being understanding of what you're after. Because as I learn, as I grow, I realize sometimes I'm not honest with myself. And the secrets to buying your first real estate investment property is really that. It's really that, right? Like just being honest with yourself. It's really not that complicated. It's really not. Anything is possible as long as you achieve it by being persistent of taking massive action, right? You take massive action and you be persistent. And I'm seeing a lot of people, they take action, but they're not persistent. So make sure you're persistent about it. Make sure you network. Continuously read and educate yourself, right? Because sometimes we think that after you finish high school, college, whatever it is, that's where our education stops. But no, that's just the foundation that builds us on how to learn more and continue to learn, right? Turn on that Netflix, open up a book, right? Get into Audibles. Reach out to me. I can even send you a link to your first free Audible. I drive instead of listening to music. That is, I just put on a book and I listen to a book. Sometimes I don't listen to anything, just kind of like have a silent moment. But anyway, guys, like it's really that simple. Like don't stop, right? Understand that there's more to it, and the way you get around to barriers and problems is by networking and reaching out to others and tuning into such as you know episodes as these. And I hope you guys learned a lot today. If I missed something, please reach out to me. Let me know. If there's topics you want me to cover and do some videos on, I'd love to do that. I'm always pushing out videos. Sometimes I just don't realize, there's some topics that people would love to hear, and I overthink it. So definitely reach out and let me know, and let's move forward. And I hope you guys have an amazing Saturday. Thank you for taking this day off to tune in and learn. Yeah, and anything else you guys need, just let me know. I'm just a message away. And again, guys, be good, be great, be safe, and have an amazing, amazing time. Be good. Yes, Keith, I agree with you. I think the most important is taking action. Um, I got to, there's actually a question about action. What is more deadlier, lack of awareness or procrastination, right? Just think about that. What is more deadly, right? Deadly. Lack of awareness, not being aware of something, procrastination, right? Not taking action. Because my previous business in e-commerce, I was a workaholic. I did about 60, 80 hours a week. I was taking massive action. I was continuously doing things and I was being busy, right? Busy. I thought busy is what? Busy gives results. No, but I was just being busy, right? And I ended up getting into a lot of debt because I had 16 employees. I was racing. I was doing all these things, but I wasn't being aware of what exactly I was trying to get into. And I ended up realizing that I was just being busy to be busy, right? So I was lacking awareness. I was not networking. Didn't have any mentors. I didn't have anybody to ask, or even ask myself to stop, think about it, and realize, I'm busy. I'm like, oh yeah, I have to do this. Oh, I have to do that. I have to multiply. I have to multiply these things that weren't really giving me any rewards or any results. So, anyways, action is very important, but lack of awareness, right? You can take massive action with no awareness of why you're doing it or what's going to be the result of it. Might be, procrastination is even better than taking action. And again, I'm not a fan of procrastination, um, but yeah, awareness is definitely a key, and understanding and being honest with yourself. Take action, with persistence, right? You can take action in 100 different ways, 100 different things. You're taking action one day, you want to be a pilot, and you're taking action of being an astronaut, and you're taking action of being a fireman, right? Like what our kids are, but they're not being persistent in that specific thing. So all this action is just kind of waste of energy, right? Right? Because emotion is what? It's two words together. It's energy plus motion, emotion, right? So you control your emotions. You control that motion of the energy. You can actually acquire a lot more things. So get into awareness, start understanding, start asking the question why. You know, the book I previously shared with the four agreements is, always do your best, be impeccable with your word, never take anything personal, and never make assumptions. And now there's the fifth agreement, and it's called, the fifth agreement is, um, I haven't read the book, so I haven't really familiarized it, but it says, be, what is the fifth agreement is, don't listen to everything you hear, but learn how to listen, right? Be skeptical. That's the fifth agreement. Be skeptical, but learn how to listen, right? Don't jump on everything you hear. But definitely learn to listen, right? Think about that. But again, guys, what is more deadly? Lack of awareness or procrastination. And I'll leave that to you. You guys decide. Think about it. And again, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. I hope you guys learned something new. Um, the secret of how to buy your first investment property is that simple. Your homework is already on the table. You know exactly what you got to do. Go on the contract, bail out, understand the contract, go back into it, give up the earnest money, bail out, get the earnest money back, understand exactly what you're doing. Work with the agent, start networking, call out, tell them what you're looking for, right? Understand what you're looking for. Let people ask you questions. Start, taking action. That's pretty much where it's at. And if you guys have any more questions, let me know. And once again, be great, be good. And thank you guys for tuning in. Awesome. Take care. Bye bye.